Locker Room specials on Indie Live Radio and Independence Live. Remember, the Locker Room, the best for sport in Scotland.
Hello, a very good evening. Apologies for just joining there just now. Yep, we are going to reflect on what's been a very disappointing night for Rangers. I'm by myself just now. I don't know where Michael McEwen's hiding. He's due to be back tonight, but he's late. I know we've started a little bit early tonight, but Michael McEwen is late. But yeah, a very disappointing evening for Rangers. First, Rangers won Liverpool 7. Well, let's be honest here, first and foremost, Rangers took the lead through Scott Arfield on 17 minutes, and the perfect start as far as Rangers were concerned, but it proved to be a bad moment in the end because Liverpool just ran rampant afterwards. Firmino equalised. Firmino actually gave them the lead in the 55th minute, and then it was goals galore. 3 goals in the space of 7 minutes. Made it a very poor night as far as Rangers were concerned, and 7-1 maybe is a little bit harsh, but is it harsh? No, total grand scheme of things, it's hard to guess that way. So, in terms of Liverpool, they also ran riot and got the job done. So, full credit to Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool side for getting the job done, and a good 3 points for Liverpool. Somebody is late, but. And I start just before we bring the other guests on this evening is 46% of Liverpool's goals this season have come in 2 matches. That is indeed the 9-0 demolition of Bournemouth for Liverpool, and that win tonight for Jurgen Klopp's side. I'm not on my own, unfortunately. We are going to be in a minute joined by Michael McEwen, but yeah, it was a very tough night indeed for Rangers. A disastrous second half as Liverpool scored 6, including a Mo Salah hat-trick. So, as I said, I'm not on my own. Mr. Michael McEwen has been enjoying his holidays and is very much late this evening. So, he's getting a fine and a detention from the Independence Locker Room, Independence Live. I'm only joking. Here's Michael McEwen!
Yes, I'm back. Sorry I'm late. Never sent you an email to say I'm late, so I'm sorry about that. It's good to be back. And thanks for holding the fort when I wasn't here, Dave. But it's always nice to be back among friends. And Rangers won, Liverpool 7.
You don't need to do any introductions because I've started you off.
Where do you start with that performance, Dave?
A very disappointing night as far as Rangers were concerned. I mean, as I said, they got off to the best possible start with Scott Arfield opening the scoring for Giovanni Van Bronckhorst's side, but then Liverpool just ran right. I mean, it wasn't as though they ran right immediately after Rangers scored. Obviously, Firmino gifted Liverpool that equaliser. And at half time, you were still dreaming. You were going, could it possibly be Rangers' night in terms of getting the result? But then 6 goals. It's inexcusable. It's not good enough, and it's simply pitiful.
Well, joined tonight as always by a new voice. Well, not a new voice because it's the second show, so it's an old voice to the show. A bit like me and Dave. Craig Anderson. Hi, Craig.
Hi guys, how you doing? Sorry, a bit late there. Some gremlins in my system there, but here at last. So thanks for having me again.
It's okay, Michael McEwen was late as well. I just thought I'd make that note for the 10th time already within 4 minutes.
Just quite a game we've just watched there. I just kind of caught the tail end of what you were saying, David. Just quite pitiful, I think was the great word to put it. Just complete collapse in the second half. Nothing about them at all in going forward. And yeah, you can't help but admire the way Liverpool played, the way Liverpool got themselves in about them. You know, as soon as Mo Salah comes off the bench, you think, and of course he gets himself a hat trick along the way. It's this whole Champions League campaign's been such a learning curve for Rangers, and when you look at the results, they don't look good. Conceding 4 and then 7 tonight. 4 against Napoli. It was 4 against Ajax as well. So there's just so much to unpick from this campaign. When you look at how well they did last year.
This Liverpool side's not been playing well just now domestically or in Europe, Craig.
No, that's true. But again, that's a reminder of just how good this Liverpool team can be on any given night. You can argue that maybe Rangers, compared to some of the teams they're playing in the English Premier League, you throw up that whole thing about the fact they're playing in the Scottish League, which I think is a little bit unfair. If you're in the Champions League, you're there on merit. But this is a Liverpool team that can turn it on, and we've seen it consistently through the years. As you rightly say, David, they've not been that good this year. Injuries have hit them quite badly. That's something Jurgen Klopp's been keen to get the point out about. But you see them tonight; they're still in there. That team's still in there, and Rangers really have got some job to lick their wounds on the back of this.
Yeah, no, exactly. We've got a few comments coming in from Kenny Smith, and it says "Go Power England Rangers." So
by the way, you're gonna have a very quiet night tonight, Michael. I had a very stressful night last night, so just you enjoy tonight, my good man.
I heard about last night, Dave, and all that. I saw bits of the show when I was coming home from the game. But yeah, so if you want to comment, you can do so by Facebook, YouTube, or you can look us up on Twitter. We are the Locker Room Indie on Twitter as well. Yeah, so I suppose obviously Rangers get beat tonight, but I suppose Rangers had a wee kind of 13-14 minutes good spell up to the goal, and then just after the goal, and then when Liverpool came in, scored the equaliser, it was because Liverpool took over them, Dave.
Take over is the wrong terminology. I would say destroyed them rather than take over, because that was all what it was. I mean, it was a 50-50 battle in the first half. I mean, we just took the lead through Arfield, and it was a very good strike by Arfield. Took his goal very, very well. Gave Alisson Liverpool goal no chance. And you did wonder, could it be? Because we've all seen in the recent times how Ibrox can be that 12th man. It can be that can be that asset towards Rangers getting that result or not getting that result. But then Liverpool were obviously going to turn the game on its head. And what I will say, and go back to Craig's point there, I think it could be a good springboard for Liverpool now, because Liverpool, well, apart from beating Bournemouth 9-0, they've not scored over 5 goals elsewhere this season. And Liverpool are renowned for being this relentless team, this team that always points in front foot, this team that always exposes oppositions, this team that won't give you a second. But as Craig alluded to, they've had a lot of injuries this season, which hasn't helped their cause at all. And this could be a massive springboard to go, look, we've beaten. Let's not shy away from it here. They've beaten a strong side, right? Rangers are maybe not Champions League standard, if you guys understand what I'm trying to say, come across here. But they are a side that, if you were to compare them in English Premier League, not that I'm trying to, but if you were to put a dimension or a terminology in terms of where they would be in the Premier League, they would be a bottom 3 side in the Premier League, which goes to show you where Liverpool are at, where Rangers are at, and how this could be a massive springboard for Liverpool. But at exactly the same time as well, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst is inexcusable, and a lot of questions have to be asked.
Yeah, we go along with that, Craig.
It's a fair point. Just when you compare Rangers in Europe last year to this year, you can argue the Champions League, you're going to have much higher quality teams in there. And where maybe Europa League is kind of Rangers level, I don't know, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on that. But we always knew coming into this group stage, coming up against a Napoli team who seem to improve year upon year, Ajax who play Champions League football every year and always do quite well in it when you consider they were in the semi-finals only as soon as, 3 years ago. And then this Liverpool team who, as we've already discussed on their day, are an excellent team. So it was always going to be a tough one. But yeah, you would have expected Rangers to do a bit better, certainly at home tonight. When you consider the game at Anfield last week, it was 2 goals that Liverpool scored, one a free kick, one a penalty. Yeah, Liverpool dominated, but Rangers did well to keep it down to 2. Tonight, the backside completely disappeared out of them altogether, and Liverpool were basically allowed to run ragged, more so in that second half, more and more space, more errors as well. I think you said up to the 13, 14 minute point, Scott Arfield's goal, for some reason, mistakes started to come into Rangers' game, passes going astray. You can't do that against a team like Liverpool, even if you're at home. And Van Bronckhorst is going to have such, the next few days to pour over that and try and find where they went wrong. It's a hell of a job.
Yeah, I suppose as well, Dave, you can see the difference there, can't you? Because obviously, like, if Liverpool's going through a sticky spell in the game, they can turn that straight on. But in terms of Celtic, Rangers, and Clerk Hearts in this as well, when they go in a sticky spell, they find it very difficult to come out of that spell.
Yeah, no, that's the difference between domestic football, Champions League football, European football, Europa Conference League level in Hearts' case. And yeah, when you look at it, I mean, I was listening to my last point, right? I was listening to a podcast today, and they were on about is Rangers an elite side? I felt like Celtic as well, but they were speaking about Rangers as well. Is Rangers an elite side? They reached the Europa League final last year, so you could argue they are, right? Are they elite side that could compete in the Champions League consistently every season? That's the $1 million question for me. And that's the question which possesses a lot of thought process. But also, at the same time, you've got to remember, Rangers are a whole lot worse defensively this year. Leon Balogun is a bigger miss than people perceive him to be, right? And I'll tell you why. Last season, when Rangers were set up defensively, it was Tavernier or Patterson, but predominantly Tavernier, Goldson. Goldson gets a lot of critics, but I don't understand why, because there is a lot of wee bad traits in this game, but in terms of being an all-round defender, he ticks all boxes. Balogun was decent enough, right? He's a lot better than what Rangers have at present in that centre-half area. Calvin Bassey obviously earned his move to Ajax, courtesy of some fine performances in the latter stages of the season for Rangers. And Balogun has been a rock at the back for Queen's Park Rangers under Michael Beale this year, which goes to show you how big a miss he's been for Rangers. And let's be honest, where Balogun's been in the media up here, has been in the media in England and saying Rangers didn't do enough to keep me on. And go by the performances we've seen in the Champions League, not just in the Champions League, but domestically as well. You can see that Rangers are missing something defensively. Carved open against Celtic, 4 goals in the opening 45 minutes. Three goals, I wanted to. They've been carved open against other teams. Champions League, carved open by every team in the Champions League there possibly has been. Domestically, they've been carved open by Hibs, carved open by I've forgotten who else now. Anyway, it'll come to me. But they've been carved open by a lot of teams, and that's been their missing problem. Yeah, they've had a lot of quality in the forward areas in the park in terms of Cholach and Morelos. They've offered it. Cholach in particular has offered a different dimension, and midfield-wise, they're still strong in the midfield. But that missing piece for me is defensively, right? You can speak about Al McGregor and John McLaughlin, that goalkeeping battle, and how Al McGregor's had to be reliable at 40 years old. But at the same time as well, it comes down to defensive dimensions for me. The fact that Rangers didn't replace a suitable defender like Leon Balogun in the close season. Because let's be honest, Leon King has potential, but is young. And James Sands simply isn't good enough for Champions League football, or indeed for Rangers, because that's been proven time and time again. Time and time again. Him and goals simply cannot work.
And is that not a concern, Craig? Because Dave round off, top teams in Scotland, basically like Celtic, Hibs. Celtic took the foot of the gas late enough in the second half, because it could have been more that day. But is that a concern when they come up against? I'm not just talking about Champions League here. I'm talking about domestically as well. Okay, they got away with they played well against Hearts that day, going away from home, and dominated that game. But I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, guys. But I think that was only a decent performance Rangers played against a a kind of top 6 team this season.
Yeah, I think Dave makes a lot of valid points here about the defence, and let's not forget this game tonight. Connor Goldson went off just before half time, and Leon King came on to replace him, playing alongside Ben Davies, who himself has only played a handful of games for Rangers this year. So, no, I think he's made some very valid concerns. You know, when you think back to the glory days of guys like Richard Gough, real warriors, Terry Butcher, you know, it's a far cry from those kind of days. And that's definitely something I think Gio has to address when it comes to January. He needs a colossal defender in there to really strengthen things. You know, again, to use Liverpool as an example, up until they bought Van Dijk, however long ago that was now, they were a team that were a bit porous in defence. All right, this year they've not had a good year, but then they got Van Dijk when they did, and suddenly Liverpool were winning league titles and Champions Leagues again. So one guy could make the hell of a difference. They definitely need to improve in that area. It's a concern about Goldson. We'll find out more about him, I dare say, as the night goes on, maybe into tomorrow morning, but certainly a headache for Gio. Yeah,
Dave, talk to me about Bassey, because he's a big loss to that Rangers team, because he offered something different that last season, and they scored a lot of goals as well.
Yeah, but there's one player I've just thought about, and I think he's arguably as big a miss, and that's Aribo.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the ability, he gets it, the way he gets about the park, the way he plays his game, the way he approaches things, the way he constructs the play, the way he destroys the play. That's something Rangers miss, in my honest opinion. And those two players I'm mentioning there are basically, it's like taking a large chunk, a bit of a cake, and taking it away. It's basically cutting a large chunk of a cake and suddenly gone. It's about that, right? And I mean, Carver Bassey, obviously, Rangers have got that specific problem with left back area at present. I mean, Ben Davies is ultimately a left back, but obviously, Rangers fans need to be patient about Ben Davies as well. Patience isn't a word that's often used by Rangers fans, so it's going to be an interesting one to see how that evolves moving forward. But yeah, Rangers fans need to be patient with Ben Davies because obviously he's just coming back from injury. It's going to be an interesting one to see how it evolves moving forward because Rangers, well, there is here. Both sides have got problems right now. They won't admit it publicly, but they've both got problems. I mean, pardon me, Celtic's got injuries to Jota and Conor McGregor, which is two seasonal figures and two defining players for me. And from a Rangers perspective, they've obviously all over the place defensively right now. Now, if you were to ask me who's the better side right now, and I don't want to make presumptions and all that right now, but if you were to ask me right now who's the better side on paper between Celtic and Rangers, you're saying Celtic because obviously you've seen that with the way Celtic just robbed Rangers apart in that Old Firm game last month there. But at the same time as well, I mean, I think tonight Celtic game and various other encounters such as Napoli and Ajax show us that Rangers still have a long way to go. The Europa League last season for me was about building momentum. It was about momentum springer. Every game they won, momentum, right? Because let's not rule the roost here. Every game Rangers won in the Europa League last year were all against decent sides because you'd even count Braga in that list and say they were a decent team. I mean, Leipzig aren't the team they are this season, but Leipzig were still a good side last season. It's just, as Al Morrison has alluded to on this show, Leipzig played a completely different style of football, which was negative, right? It was deep lying, it was patient, it was hard to break down, there was no forward thinking. They're a different side under Marco Rossi, and that's where they're getting affected, and that's where there's a totally different difference between where Leipzig are at now and where they were last season. So from that point of view, it's massively disappointing and something that they have to go and learn from moving forward, unfortunately. But for Rangers, there's a lot of questions and very little answers.
Now, we do have a Liverpool fan joining us tonight. Oh, no, it's Graham. Oh, yes, it is a Liverpool fan. Graham, happy to see you and hope you're well at this difficult time. But I suppose that cheered you up tonight, that performance.
I didn't see that coming, to be honest, right for the first half. I thought Rangers' first half were actually very good. They were pressing the ball. They were causing Liverpool a lot of problems. Virgil van Dijk is very, very badly off form. I thought Gomez was really poor at right back. Kanate was playing really well, but Rangers were in the faces right for the start. And then I thought at half time, I thought this is quite worrying because Rangers looked decent here. And then second half, Liverpool just took over. It was a much better second half. But the stuff Rangers did in the first half, where they pressed and they harried, they didn't do second half. Liverpool just completely controlled it. And I mean, Mo Salah, a 6-minute hat trick, unbelievable. Firmino was absolutely brilliant tonight. Darwin Núñez, I'm still not convinced by him yet. He showed flashes tonight. He's still very raw, as he mentioned in commentary about 25 times. But I don't think he was great tonight, but he gets his goal. But I mean, 7-1, I could not have expected that at half time because Rangers were well in the game at half time.
Yeah, but as you say, Graham, right, you've mentioned players there. You mentioned Darwin Núñez was raw, right? You've mentioned Van Dijk was off it. You've mentioned the right back wasn't good in the first half. You've mentioned players weren't good enough there. Yet they've went to Ibrox and scored 7 goals, which shows you how strong Liverpool are and how pitiful Rangers were.
Yep. Well, that was my next point, Dave. Even though Liverpool won 7-1, that's no Liverpool at the strongest that they can do. Imagine if that was full. Imagine that was Liverpool as a full strength team tonight. They would go walk out that game by 8-1, and I'm not being funny here, but 9-1. Craig.
Quite possibly. I'm just listening to the names that Graham listed there who impressed. I thought Harvey Elliott was excellent for Liverpool tonight as well. Very industrious in that kind of area. Deserved his goal, I thought, as well, albeit courtesy of a VAR check. So he's another one that's played really well. But when you look at that, I mean, that you talk about the guys that Liverpool were kind of missing tonight. It doesn't matter. 7-1, even with this team as under strength, if you want to use that term, as it was, it's still impressive. It's still a huge confidence boost for Liverpool in a season that's been absolutely poor for them in so many regards. So that's something that Jurgen Klopp will take away from that with great delight. The fact that these guys stepped up in a big Champions League game in let's be honest, a hostile environment. I agree with Darwin Núñez. I'm not keen on him at all. I've not seen anything from him to think that he's going to be anything special. Certainly not this season. But as soon as they swap him for Salah, what a difference! Salah gets in these spots and makes a mug of Barisic on a couple of occasions and leading up to his hat trick. There's so many. You can say that about Liverpool and the fact that they were under strength tonight, but the fact of the matter is 7-1 with a relatively under strength team is really quite disappointing from a Rangers point of view, and something Van Bronckhorst really needs to sit there and look at.
How does Gio pick up the team because they've got a difficult away game on Sunday against Motherwell?
Who's that for?
Craig.
Oh, that's me. Sorry.
Yeah.
Tough one. It's a real tough one. And you would like to think any footballer worth their salt, professional pride comes into it. They'll come in licking their wounds. Motherwell, in many respects, Stevie Hamill might look at that and go, Jesus, that could be the worst thing that could happen to them, or happen to us rather, goes into that game at Fir Park at the weekend and all of a sudden Rangers turn it on again. We'll just have to wait and see. But as far as Van Bronckhorst's concerned, he has got to lift the guys. How he does it, I've no idea. But you would like to think, in the Premiership's a different beast compared to the Champions League. And we know that. The quality between the two kind of competitions is vast. So I don't think they'll have too much of a problem lifting the guys. I think that the players will do it themselves. I think it's something no player wants to come away from a 7-1 defeat. So I think it's all on them.
Dave.
Michael, can I raise an interesting point? It's not related to what you've just said there. You've been watching the BT Sport coverage type by any chance?
Yeah.
I've got it on, but obviously it's muted.
Right. Ali McCoist was giving it I don't know if you've heard this right, but Ali McCoist was seemingly giving it the old Peterhead 10 years ago rubbish.
After the game, yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Irrelevant, because they reached the Europa League final a few months ago. That's your benchmark.
And also, you can't keep going back to that, Dave. After 5, McCoy's going all that might be talking about that 5 years down the line, but that's in the past. you know, but yeah, he did see that after the game, and I was saying about look how far Rangers has came from. You know, like they went up to what Peterhead 4 years ago or whatever, but that's got nothing to do with the Champions League.
Ali McCoist forgets that Rory McAllister is a quality striker in Scottish football.
But I mean, I think like not to go down that route, but I think he's doing a disservice to the rest of Scottish football there, and I think he forgets that the kind of levels as well, Graham.
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, you saw his reaction at half time when Rangers scored the opening goal, and listen, he's rightly so. He was celebrating a Rangers goal, but 45 minutes later, he's been absolutely hammered. So, I mean, I think Scottish football's in a decent place just now, but you can't even go back to that. Peterhead all those years ago. You've got to look to the future, and the future is they've just been hammered 7-1. And as I said, second half, Liverpool did control the game, but I just thought Rangers' second half just collapsed really badly. As I said, everything they did really well first half, where they pressed, they got in Liverpool's faces, they got the ball in behind. They didn't do that second half. They just allowed Liverpool to control the game. And to be fair, Liverpool subs, you look at the bench, you're bringing on Salah, you're bringing on Thiago, you're bringing on Robertson, you're bringing on Jota, you're bringing on real quality. But Rangers' heads dropped after that third goal, really. And after that, the game was done. And it's slightly embarrassing that they ended up losing more goals. And I think if the referee hadn't been so kind and only played a minute of extra time, there might have been a few more goals in that game.
No side in Scottish football, I'm not allowed to Graham's point here, but no side in the Champions League, should be getting beaten the manner and the magnitude that they did. You'll not see a Moldovan side such as Sheriff. I forgot what the second name's called now.
Sheriff Tiraspol.
That's it. You'll never see Sheriff Tiraspol. You'll never see Kazakhstan sides, random Eastern European sides get beat 8-0 off at Liverpool, Real Madrid, and so forth. That is embarrassing, and there's no other way to put it.
How concerning is it for Scottish football, because, well, concentrating on Rangers, that they were at home tonight, they scored their very first goal in the Champions League, yet they still get beat 7-1. Graham.
Who's that for, Michael?
Graham.
I think it is probably very concerning. As Dave said, I don't think that'll happen to a lot of teams, and it's the way that there's ways to get beat, and to lose by 7 at home when you were 1-0 up, I mean, that's just really poor. And I mentioned this point to Dave and Alan yesterday when I was on the Facebook and that about, how do Scottish teams compete better next season? Well, you've got to do better than that, because that is not acceptable. Rangers fans, I think, were leaving after the fourth goal. They've got to do better than that. You've got to compete more than that. I think the heads dropped, and, that shouldn't be happening. I think Van Bork has got a difficult job to lift the team for the game at the weekend, but Liverpool are a side that haven't been great this season. The form's been really erratic. They play Man City on Sunday, which I'm not looking forward to, because Erling Haaland against that Liverpool defence could be quite frightening.
Agreed.
But you shouldn't. Yeah. You really shouldn't be. That Liverpool defence is vulnerable. Yes, we've got plenty quality, but that Liverpool defence is vulnerable, and Rangers showed that in the first half and then didn't do anything second half. The one thing I would say for Rangers, I thought Sakala was really, really good. I thought he was a real breath of fresh air down that right-hand side. He was excellent. He gave Joe Gomez and Van Dijk a tough time, and they didn't really get the ball enough in the second half. And even in the first half again, I thought Ryan Kent, who I've been critical of recently, I thought first half Ryan Kent was good as well, but then second half, he never got the ball. So Rangers have got to do more. But I think, Scottish clubs in Europe at the moment, Hearts got Fiorentina tomorrow. I'm not looking forward to that game. But Scottish clubs in Europe just now, they're just not at it right now. They're playing better teams, don't get me wrong, but you've got to do more. You've got to compete better than that.
I know.
Standard of Scottish football. Graham, do you think it's a standard of Scottish football?
Yeah, possibly. But then, see if I look back to Hearts, right? Hearts got hammered by Fiorentina last week, as we all know. RFS got a point against Fiorentina. We got hammered 4-0 by Başakşehir. RFS got a point against Başakşehir. That's a Latvian team. So Latvian teams are competing more than we are. And that, for me, is not good enough. I've said before, after the Scotland games against Ireland and that, Scottish football, well, Scotland are in a very good place. Scottish football teams in Europe are very much below the standard right now.
Can I just say though, I mean, you make a valid point, Graham, but we're talking about Scottish teams that are in the group stages of these European competitions. You know, we went through a spell there where we couldn't get through the qualifying rounds, but here we are in October with 3 Scottish teams in the group stages who have got their own merit, largely because of the runs Rangers have been on in the last few years in European football. You know, you have to say the fact that even in these group stages is fantastic, because it's not something that we see all too often, especially 2 Scottish teams in the Champions League as well. You make a good point. You know, we're just not with it for some reason. I don't understand why. But the fact that even in the group stage, I think is something that should be a positive to take from this. Would you agree with that?
100%. It's great. I said when the draws are made, it's great you've got 3 Scottish teams in European football. It's fantastic. But it's looking like all of them are going to be bottom of the league. And yeah, they're playing difficult teams, don't get me wrong, but I think we should be competing, especially at home. You should do a lot more. Like Hearts should not be getting beat 4-0 by Worcestershire, 3-0 by Fiorentina, and Rangers should not be getting beat 7-1 by Liverpool, especially on the first half performance. So they were very good, but second half they just collapsed.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Craig, about we should celebrate the success, if you want to call it that word, for Celtic, Rangers and Hearts to be there. But it's all right being at the party. But when you're at the party, you want to actually win games, score goals, play sexy football. You know, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying, but I think that the only caveat I would back up with this: you want to be there and say that, yeah, we have deserved to be there, so we are going to put on a show and we're going to play game. We're going to play good games. We're going to score goals. We might not win every game, but at least we're going to be competing and we're going to put in a shift. And I know we're talking about the game tonight, but from the Rangers' point of view, I felt as though when Rangers when Liverpool equalised to make it 1 each, it was backs to the wall for Rangers, and I don't know why that was.
Well, there was mistakes started to creep in. I think I mentioned it earlier already. The fact that Scott Arfield scores. I think somebody's already mentioned the fact that Sakala and Kent were being used on the wings and causing a few problems, and that seemed to dry up. It was almost as though Liverpool really got to grips with what Rangers were doing and quickly shut that down and stop Rangers from finding those outlets. I've completely forgot what your question was now, but but I completely agree that they should be at least putting on a performance at home. That goal from Arfield got things going for Rangers, and then mistakes started happening. If you watch it back again, not that you'd want to, passes started going astray, in dangerous areas. And a team like Liverpool, every day of the week, are going to hoover those up and punish you for them. And we saw it more in the second half. Especially when Mo Salah come on, he's not a guy that likes to start a game on the bench. Next thing you know, he's seeing opportunities open up for him, and Liverpool are really punishing them for it. It was things like that, slackness, just basic things that went wrong for Rangers.
Yeah, no, exactly, and yeah, I suppose it's back to your question as well, because even though that the Scottish clubs is in Europe, we don't want to be embarrassed, and to be honest, we have been embarrassed so far, and we only halfway through the competition, and we're getting embarrassed as well,
Sorry, Michael, can I just interrupt you for a minute? I didn't watch the last half hour of the game. Why is what I just seen somebody on Twitter said should Ryan Kent kick a ball again for Rangers? Was he that poor tonight?
I thought he was very good first half, but he fell out of the second half, but he didn't get a lot of the ball to be fair. So I certainly wouldn't blame Ryan Kent for that. He didn't see enough of the ball. First half he was excellent, but second half I think Liverpool kind of sussed him out and he stopped getting the ball. That's the thing. I don't think there was anything Ryan Kent could have done.
I mean, I think to be fair to Ryan Kent, he wasn't the only one, Graham.
No, he wasn't.
It's just I'm seeing a lot of things on social media saying Ryan Kent should never wear a Rangers shirt again.
I would say that's a bit unfair, but that's football fan for you, Graham.
all I can think of, I've not seen the rest of the game. All I can think of, because they played for Liverpool, I don't know if they've done something after the game in terms of Liverpool, like I don't know, I'm only guessing, but maybe that's the reason. But in terms of performance, as I said, Kent was very good first half, but he didn't get the ball second half. They stopped feeding him. So I don't see why people are saying that Kent shouldn't kick a ball again, because that is very, very harsh.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of things. I've seen a lot of things, saves anonymous and all that kind of stuff.
Don't forget, you can comment on anything that we are talking about tonight. We've actually got a full house tonight. I think I'm at the bingo when I'm saying that. But anyway, we're back on tomorrow night as well for the Hearts big game against Fiorentina. We'll speak about that before the end of the show, and we'll maybe dip into Celtic's performance last night against RB Leipzig, and that was a very disappointing performance as well. Celtic put a lot of effort into the game, but again, it's just I don't know what it is in Europe, whether they can't make that kind of like step up. And I mean, you saw with Rangers tonight, you knew, Greg, that they were going to be up against it, but you never knew. It was a 7-1 game.
I think it's me, Craig.
Yeah.
Is that me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I think you kind of cut out a wee bit there. I'll try and get the gist of what you said there. I never quite picked up. You're going to need to help me again. Sorry.
Right, okay. No, so I was just saying about when you went into the game tonight. If you ask any Rangers fans or anybody that works in the media or whatever, they would never say that we're going to be sitting here at 10:25 on a Wednesday night talking about a 7-1 defeat.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. When you consider the way Rangers performed at Anfield last week, albeit they were dominated for large spells of the game, but only came away with a 2-0 defeat to show for it. You felt that at home, at Ibrox, the big crowd behind them, and we remember how well that crowd served them in the Europa League run last year. Another big night ahead. When you think back to even the Napoli game, although the scoreline was quite one-sided, Rangers actually played reasonably well for good parts of that game. So it was an incredible way for them just to completely collapse, and it was quite the thing. And as you say, Michael, to be sitting here, it's almost like a post-mortem. The fact that we're talking about Liverpool having taken 7 off them at Ibrox is quite something. I didn't expect. I actually thought Rangers could at least sneak a draw tonight, maybe even sneak a win. We've seen that happen in the past, coming up against these big English powerhouses and Scottish teams sneaking a win in the Champions League. I hope for it. I probably hope rather than expectation. But no, to be sitting here with them absolutely done, 7-1, very deflating for Rangers tonight. And the media will have a field day on this one. I think we know what they're like when it comes to European performances and such like. So that'll be interesting.
Good seeing videos coming through on social media that the Rangers fans are calling the Liverpool fans after the game. I'm quite surprised at that, actually. You would think they would go home because of the manner the defeat, but hey ho, supporters are supporters, and they want to fight, and the police has got to kind of like step in as well. But that's why it's quite solid to see that, Graham.
Yeah, it is. I mean, these things happen at football. Unfortunately, it's Scotland against England, isn't it? It's just one of these things. But hopefully the streets and that in Glasgow aren't too bad tonight. But it's just one of these things. It's, as I say, it's Scotland against England. It's going to happen.
Who's to blame? Who's to blame, do you think? Is it Van Bronckhorst? Is it the board? Is it the players? For me, it's the board. Why? Because they didn't back Van Bronckhorst. Especially with all the money coming in, especially with the Europa League final. That was a great opportunity to build momentum, springboard the momentum, and add towards what was a fine moment in Rangers' history. And it was a terrific opportunity for me to go look at it and say, Giovanni, here's such and such amount of money. And then when they got the Champions League qualification, there was an opportunity to go and say to Giro, there's £30 million, we'll keep £10 million for football club spare money or football club internal things such as running Ibrox Stadium and such forth. For me, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst should have been given a far bigger budget than he did. So for me, it's the board.
I'll bring the other guys in a minute, Dave, but I know it's easy for us to say that after a 7-1 defeat, but if we were doing the show and if Rangers was 1-1 out, I don't think we would be having this debate. You know what I mean?
Haven't strengthened defensively. Midfield-wise, they're light because they've lost Aribo. Up front, maybe is can be excused from this. But defensive midfield-wise, they're a long way off from where they were last year.
Oh yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you, and I don't know what you think of that, Craig. But like, when Rangers scarkick the game, and okay, you're talking about McCoy speaking about the past, and I'm not going to speak about the past as well, but we are speaking about the game tonight. And when Rangers were 1-1-0, you wouldn't have been saying that to me on the show. But after the game, you're right on that account. But during the game when Rangers took the league, I think we would be having kind of like a different conversation. Greg, what do you think there, Craig?
I think it's, I kind of agree with that. If it'd been a sneaky 1-0 win or a 2-1 loss or something like that, I agree. I don't think that's something that would have come up. But now that you have brought it up, I suppose it is worth kind of mentioning. Valid points, Dave. I've got to say,
It's not me. It's just stuff that's coming out of Twitter. I'm just bringing it.
I can see the point in that, but for guys with the experience, some of the experience that Rangers have got in that team, I think tactically as well, Van Bronckhorst, he started off, as we mentioned already, he had Kent and Sakala on the wings, I think with a view to try to get behind the fullbacks, because we all know that Tsimikas and Alexander Arnold, when he's playing, but it was Gomez tonight, like to push forward. As soon as Liverpool cottoned onto that, they shut that alley down, and there didn't seem to be a plan B. So that you can maybe say there's an element of blame for Van Bronckhorst on that performance as well. The heads went down when Liverpool went 3-1 up. You're looking at the players for that one as well. You want some degree of pride, especially when you're at home, and instead of pride, they get beat even more by conceding more goals. So I think all the elements that you mentioned there, Dave, I think all of them come into play after this defeat tonight. There's blame to be apportioned all over the place, I think.
I would say 2-1, not 3-1, not could be picky there, but I would say 2-1.
Right.
Graham?
Yeah.
I think probably one of the biggest surprises on transfer deadline day was that Rangers didn't strengthen. And I think even before that, even a few days before that, Rangers fans were getting very concerned that they hadn't strengthened in certain areas. And obviously, Dave's right, they still haven't. They do still look a bit vulnerable. And I don't know if you guys mentioned it before I came on, you probably have, but Connor Goldson going off was a massive blow for them. Yeah, because then second half, you're playing two young guys. You're playing Leon King and Ben Davis at the back. That's a very difficult task for those two youngsters to deal with, and they did what they could, but they just spectacularly collapsed second half. And it wasn't just them; the whole team really fell downhill after that. But I think Rangers probably did need to strengthen further, and I think defensively they still look vulnerable, and that showed in that second half, because every time Liverpool came forward second half, they looked a real threat. So I think Rangers probably did need to strengthen, and there'll be a lot of Rangers fans tonight thinking we should have done more in that window, but they still got. For Scottish football, they've still got a strong enough squad. For European football, I don't think they've got anywhere near a strong enough squad.
Can I just elaborate and say why I think the board need to take a large portion of this? Because see Celtic, when they were dominant domestically and were in Champions League football season upon season or in Champions League consistently, they had a large portion of money available to the football department. And Peter Lawwell was always getting criticism because he never backed his managers.
Can I go back to something Graham said there, right? When we were talking about Goldson coming off, and I've been mentioning this on the show from maybe like the beginning of the season, or when Celtic played Rangers at Parkhead. See, when you look at the benches now between like Celtic and Rangers, there's a gulf there. I don't know if anybody can.
Well, that
you
was
know,
dignified. That was dignified when Celtic beat Rangers 4-0 Parkhead.
but what I mean is when Celtic were making subs and they were bringing on, I can't remember who was on the bench that day, but Maiga, Tumbo. But compare that to Rangers, where they're bringing on King, Giska young boy. So I think when you're talking about money getting spent at Ibrox, Dave, I think that's a valid point because that showed you the
You look
strength
at what Club
squad.
Brugge have done. You look at what Club Brugge have done, and go, that's your benchmark. Now, not every underdog side's going to achieve what Club Brugge have done, but at the same time as well, you would expect Rangers to put on a far more solid showing than they have been.
But and then you this might sound like a weird comment, and anyway, but I'm going to say it. But if it was when Liverpool went ahead tonight, Rangers actually just stopped playing football. Now I don't know why that is. So I don't think you can blame Gio for that performance tonight. I think you can blame part of the team, yes, because like they put the tools away when it was 2-1, 3-1, and then before you know it could have been 8-1, or I'm not being funny, but it could have been 9-1 as well. If the game went on for another like 5 minutes as well.
As
But
Craig
yeah, I mean,
says, I'm looking forward to newspapers tomorrow morning.
I want to make a point about the subs as well that Rangers brought on, and I want to get your thought on this. I found it a little bit strange that, was it Stephen Wright, Scott Wright rather, sorry, Alfredo Morelos and Rabi Matondo didn't get on the pitch until 76 minutes. Now, to be fair, I think Van Bronckhorst was going to bring them on at 3-1 right before Salah got the first of his hat-trick tonight. Did you not think it was a little bit strange that he left it so late to bring these guys on, given that Rangers were needing something a little bit fresh? Well, they needed something a bit fresh from probably a good bit before, probably a good quarter of an hour before, but he left it so late to change it. Any of you guys read anything into that? No?
On you go.
I would slightly, Craig. Yeah, I mean, when Liverpool were starting to score goals, you did sense as Rangers making the subs at the right times, and in total aspect they didn't, because all the subs came on at the completely wrong times, and Liverpool were just running right at that precise moment in time, and that's how the scoreline prevailed in the way it did in the end.
Yeah. I wanted just looking back at my notes, I was making the observations as the game went on. I wrote this one sort of late on in the first half. Rangers showing no fear going forward. Liverpool quite toothless up front at times. That'll give you a wee chuckle.
Yeah, right. But that's what I was saying before Graham comes on. Like, that's the difference, because Liverpool can play rubbish for 10 minutes or whatever, or 2 or 3 games, and they can just turn it on and off at a tap. But when we're talking about Scottish football, when they play rubbish, they're actually rotten for the whole 90 minutes, or maybe a few games. So, like, that's the difference there. Graham.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about the fact that Liverpool haven't been particularly great so far this season, and then you're talking about the subs. You're looking at Rangers bringing on Stephen Davis or Rabi Matondo or Alfredo Morelos. Liverpool are bringing on Mo Salah, who's scored a hat-trick in 6 minutes. I mean, that's a massive difference. And a couple of the goals that Salah scored were they were brilliant goals, but Rangers players just seemed to stop. It was almost like time just stopped. And at times it was far too easy. And I think Rangers probably did make subs a bit too late, but I don't know if Van Bronckhorst thought, if I make attacking subs, I'm going to get picked off. So he's kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. And to be fair, Matondo, when he came on last week, actually looked quite good. And he had a couple of decent chances at Anfield. So whether Van Bronckhorst was thinking, if I make too many changes, I'm going to get hammered here, and they got hammered anyway, but he maybe caught between a rock and a hard place. But the subs probably were too late. But as I said, Liverpool are bringing on real quality, even though we've not been great this season. And that, that just showed that second half. It was, I mean, we're talking about like Rangers fans have been talking about, do you blame the board, do you blame the team, do you blame the manager? You've just got to take it. That first half, Rangers were very good. But then second half, they just fell apart. So that, for me, is on the team more than anyone else, because they fell apart for me.
Yeah, no. And that brings me back to my point, Graham, I was making about that's the differences between the benches as well. Not even in Europe, but in Scottish football as well, right? I don't want to go back to the game, but the Celtic Rangers game at Parkhead, you can see the standard of player that's coming on, and like say the young boy King, it's coming on, and that's again we keep talking about things, but we keep going back to Dave's point, Craig, about money, and. Well, we found out this week in the Champions League that you have to spend money to play with the big boys.
Yeah, totally. And and I think Dave made the point earlier about where the money's gone, from Rangers' European run last year and the riches that came from that, albeit it was the Europa League. Celtic have been a bit more astute in the way they've built their team. When you look at Postecoglou's raided the kind of Far Eastern market for some of the players he's brought in. I can't remember some of the fees he was paying offhand if it was ever made public, but there's certainly a strength and depth that Celtic have that Rangers don't right now. Rangers need to invest. There's no doubt about that. I think tonight shows that up maybe more than any other time this season. So that's something for them to look at. But strength and depth is important, especially playing in a competition like this. And as we've already said tonight, Celtic have got it and Rangers don't.
Dave?
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at Celtic, they are a lot more astute. I mean, Ange Postecoglou is what wonders. People are going to forget quickly that last summer, Celtic were on their knees under, formerly Neil Lennon, and then his predecessor, Ange Postecoglou. They were on their knees. And then Ange Postecoglou had to go into self-isolation because of obviously Australian COVID rules, or Scottish COVID rules, pardon me. And it was a big uphill task. But for Ange Postecoglou to deliver what he did during that time scale is phenomenal, to say the least. And then Rangers kind of they didn't stay in their laurels or stay in their laurels. They weren't proactive enough. Enough, I don't think. They didn't replace a Balgan. They didn't replace a Aribo. They didn't replace a Abassi. Now, I thought somebody up the window for a minute now. They weren't a side that Rangers did. Now, when I mention the money side of things, I'm not meaning spending £50 million on the best left back in the world, or I'm meaning spending £30 million on a Shakhtar midfielder, such as what a Man City or a Chelsea would do, just to give you an example in England. I'm meaning getting guys in, like what Celtic have done, bringing guys from the over and down under in Australia, and bringing players from Japan who maybe didn't have the qualities to play European football or Premier League football for a side in England, that had the credentials to build up their stock at a club like Celtic, do well at Celtic, and then test themselves in the Champions League. And I think that's what Rangers have to do now. When you look at Rangers, there's no bat in the row here. Al Morrison would have been, if this was a Celtic game and Celtic got beaten in the way they did, Al Morrison would be the first one in the show to tell you that that's football sometimes, but at the same time, it's about adapting your squad, and Rangers haven't done that, I'm afraid.
Yeah, no, can't argue with that assessment, Graham.
No, 100%. I think Rangers probably will bounce back against Motherwell because it's Scottish football. Rangers and Celtic have got better squads, let's be honest. So I'd expect Rangers to bounce back. But tonight has been a massive, massive letdown for them. And as I say, just the way they started that first half, they were really, really impressive. They got Liverpool's faces, but they just fell apart second half. And, I think Liverpool will take a lot of confidence going to the Man City game, but it's a humbling night for Rangers, as it was for Celtic last night, and I'm now dreading Hearts tomorrow.
My concern is when you look at the tables and the way things stand right now, it's going to be really difficult for Rangers and Celtic to both even try and get into third place in the group to get to at least parachute them into the Europa League. And I think that's probably the most disappointing thing. Both of them had difficult groups. We all know that. Real Madrid, Liverpool, Ajax and Leipzig, for the two of them. So I think the fact that they don't look as though they're going to get anywhere near third place, I think is probably a big disappointment as well. Again, going back to the fact Rangers did so well in that Europa League last year.
Dave?
Sorry, I actually wasn't paying attention to what you were saying there because I'm busy trying to get Van Bronckhorst quotes. Sorry, what was you saying?
No, I'm saying the fact that what's a concern for me is the fact that both Rangers and Celtic at this moment in time don't look as though they're going to get anywhere near third place in the group to parachute them into the Europa League as well. Which when you consider looking back on the draw when it was first made, you would have taken that, I think, to begin with. But the fact they're not even getting close to that, I think, has got to be probably the most disappointing aspect of this campaign.
Yeah, the conversation was somebody about that today actually, and we were making the point that quite simply, Celtic had to go beat Leipzig last night, which they haven't done. And I was on the show with Alan Morrison last night, and we were diligently confident that that was all it was. I mean, quite simply, Celtic would have to go win at least one game, and then they would have to go to, well, quite simply, Celtic have to go beat Shakhtar in a couple weeks' time. Rangers, they simply have to go beat Napoli or Ajax, or else it's bye-bye European football beyond Christmas. I mean, from a Scottish football perspective, obviously offers a lot more excitement in that aspect of, yes, there's a disappointment in terms of both clubs are out of European football at this stage of the season, but at the same time as well, it adds the excitement from Celtic Rangers' perspective that they don't have to have Sunday, Wednesday, or Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday, Thursday, whatever you call it, just an aspect of that. So there is that perception to it as well, but in terms of European football, that's the bread and butter, and you want to be it for as long as you can. So majorly disappointing.
Craig, we work in the media, like Dave, and like the media, the English media thinks that Scottish football's a Mickey Mouse league. But how would we see Celtic, Rangers, and Hearts against other Graham competing in Europe, and for the big two, i.e. Celtic, Goose have a point, Rangers, Goose scoring their first goal tonight and get beat very heavily by 7 goals to 1. How would that seems to be kind of like going down with our neighbours?
Well, there was a thing going viral today on TalkSport, which is not a radio station I'm a fan of. I think that there's too many pound shop pundits on there for my liking, and when they've got guys on there who you need to Google their career to find out who they were. And there was that Jason Cundy today. They'll be lapping this up. Again, they'll go back to that. That's always their fallback. They've got no other. Rio Ferdinand on television, we all remember what he said about Scotland prior to the Euros game against England last year, how England would wipe the floor with them. And we were laughing at him after that. So it's not going to help in that regard. These guys will come away with that. They've got a platform to do it, and they'll do it. And you'll no doubt see something on TikTok or anything. Somebody called Jamie O'Hara will have a boot in the guts for us as well. So, it's not going to change anything. They like how we laugh at our teams in Europe for some reason. I'll just let them do it. It's their own sad little world. And if it gets talk sport some listeners, then fine. That's fine. But just have Google on standby just in case you don't know who's talking.
Well, you know what to do if you don't like talk sport, come to Indie Live. That was, we're on every Friday between 5 and 7.
Yeah, set you up for that one, yeah.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, that was all media backhander, so that was good. And all that. But yeah, so Graham, couple minutes left. I'm going to spend a few minutes speaking about your beloved Hearts. Of course, we've got a show tomorrow night. We're on after the Hearts game and till 11 o'clock. How do you think they'll fare tomorrow night? Obviously, I never saw the first game. they get beat. I know that much, but I never saw any of the highlights, believe it or not. But how do you think they'll fare tomorrow night going away from home?
I wish I hadn't watched the first game either. Well, they can't afford to be as passive as they were in the first game. I mean, the tone for that game was set very low when we let Fiorentina kick off and then didn't press them, but just let them dominate the game. That can't happen tomorrow. Apparently I think there's 4,000 Hearts fans at that game tomorrow. I wish I was one of them. We need to start better. We need to play on the front foot. We need to get after them. It's a game we have to win. Fiorentina have not been in great form. They got beat 4-0 by Lazio just a couple of days ago, so they're not in great form. We have to go there and win, but Robbie has got to let the shackles off and have a goal. But my worry is that we'll sit back and just defend, so it's a concern, but we've got to be better than we were last week, because last week was nowhere near acceptable.
I'm just thinking that this guy's right. Since like the Champions League started, the Europa Cup and the Conference League, we haven't had anything decent to talk about.
Hearts beat RFS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I forgot about that. Glenn. That killed that conversation. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, well, seen us get the end of the show, not at the beginning, or else it'll be a long hour. But so give a quick summary of tonight's game, Craig. Before we call it a night, how would you summarise it from a Rangers point of view?
I think disastrous. High hopes going into that game at Ibrox at home against a team like Liverpool with past European glory nights at Ibrox, and then just falling really flat at the end. Really disappointing.
Okay, thanks, guys, for joining me. Big thanks to Graham coming on as a sub at the very last minute. Dave and Craig as well. We'll be back tomorrow night with the Fiorentina Hearts game. We'll be joined by another Jambo on the show. No, not Graham, but another special Jambo we haven't had on the show. Looking forward to that. So, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
It's Champions League time once again, and you can catch up with what's been happening in the games by tuning in to the